and the detail in the glass negatives were incredible. I mean, you can see people's faces. I mean, they're very, very lifelike, very lifelike. So, sit down for a second. The two most famous incidents that happened were, number one, and I'm using poetic license here, but one of the ships that was built back in the early 1700s, when this was still part of the British Empire, sailed out of Boston. What they did, by the way, they would build the hulls here on the river, the various shipyards on the river, and then they would tow them with either mules if they had paths along the side, but most of the time they towed them with gondolas. Gondolas were low, heavy beam rowboats, and they would attach the lines to the ship, and they would, with the outgoing tide, this is a tidal estuary, by the way, down here. With the outgoing tide, they would tow it up to the mouth of the river, and then a bigger vessel, probably a sailing vessel, would sail up to Boston and tow it behind, and then they do the finish work, the decking, the masts, and so forth up there. But the basic grunt work was done here along the river. So, okay, so this ship sails early 1700s out the river with a finished ship, and sailed south, down around Cape Horn, because there was no Panama Canal in those days.
That's right.
So they sailed around the Horn, came up the Pacific side, came up past California, which was being settled by the Spanish in those days, up to what is now Oregon. And they came up to the coast of Oregon, and they were hugging the coast pretty closely, and they saw this massive river roaring out of the hills, coming right into the Pacific Ocean. So this land apparently had not been claimed by anybody. So we hereby claim this land in the name of King George III as a part of the British Empire. So one guy says to the other guy, says, "Geez, we found this big river. What are we going to call it?" The name of the ship was the Columbia. So it's the Columbia River up in Portland. It goes right through Portland.
Wow.
And then the other big story, famous story. Now you've heard of Moby Dick.
Yep.
Herman Melville. Okay. The Great White Whale. A dead whale or a stove boat. That was the harpooner's slogan. A dead whale or a stove boat means the whale hits the boat and smashes it. And this is what happened in the story of Moby Dick. The Pequod was hit by Moby Dick, the white whale. Well, in reality, there was a ship that was built on the river and finished probably in Boston, and it was a whaling ship that sailed out of Nantucket Island. Can't remember the captain's name. So they sailed around the Horn out into the Pacific, because that's where the whaling grounds were, out in the Pacific Ocean. So they sailed out there, and they encountered this big male sperm whale, nasty guy, and they harpooned him, and he got upset, and he smashed the boat, hit the boat head on.
Happened for real then.
Happened for real. There was a book written by Nathaniel Philbrick about 6 or 7 years ago called "In the Heart of the Sea," and it details everything that happened, because the ship was shattered. They were able to get I don't know how many lifeboats down, and a lot of the men drowned when the ship went down. A lot of the men drowned. In the lifeboats, they were starving, and one or two had died, and they had no food. They actually had to practice cannibalism. They had to eat, and they were finally picked up. I don't know how many weeks or months they were out there. And by the way, the same captain went to sea again, another whaling ship out of the North Shore, I think out of Essex, up in the North Shore, and a ship called the Two Brothers, and they found in the 1940s and 1950s, they found a bronze plaque off the coast of one of the Hawaiian Islands, the Two Brothers. They found it there when the ship apparently capsized and was lost. So those are the big stories. There's an interesting book called The History of Shipbuilding on North River, which was written by a churchman, Vernon Briggs, who was a local man. It's about that thick. I have a copy I showed you, and a really detailed history of all the ships. This place was incredible in its day. It was just amazing, it really was. So that's a little bit of the local history, but it's a lot quieter now.